stranger who knew my dreams. It started with a dream. Not an ordinary one, but something unsettling, vivid, and far too real. In my dream, I stood in an abandoned carnival, where rusted rides creaked under a cold wind. The laughter of unseen children echoed in the distance, eerie and hollow. A fortune-teller's tent stood before me, its entrance swaying as if beckoning me inside. I hesitated, but a voice, soft, whispering, called my name. I stepped in. Inside, a woman sat behind a crystal ball, her face obscured by shadows. She raised her hand, pointing directly at me. "He's watching you," she said. "And he knows your dreams." I woke up gasping. My heart pounded and my skin was damp with sweat. Just a dream. But then things got stranger. The next day, as I grabbed coffee from a cafe near my apartment, a man sitting alone by the window caught my eye. He was watching me, intently. His face was unfamiliar, but there was something unsettling in the way he looked at me, like he knew something about me that I didn't. As I walked past, he murmured, just loud enough for me to hear, "How was the carnival?" I froze. My breath hitched. I turned, but the man simply smiled, a knowing, almost amused smile. Before I could say anything, he stood and walked out, vanishing into the crowded street. That night, the dreams returned. This time I stood on a fog-covered bridge. The river below was eerily silent, and the air smelled of rain. Across from me stood the same shadowy figure from the carnival, but now I could make out more details. She had piercing silver eyes and an unsettlingly calm expression. "You need to wake up," she whispered. I jolted awake, panting. And then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should listen to her." I stared at the message, dread pooling in my stomach. Who was this? Was it the man from the cafe? I typed back, "Who is this?" No response. Over the next few days, my dreams became more vivid. Each time, the woman in the dreams warned me. "He is getting closer." I started seeing the stranger more often, on the subway, near my office, even outside my apartment building. He never approached me but always watched, his presence a silent reminder that something wasn't right. Then one evening as I left work, I found him standing near my car. "Why are you following me?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled again, but this time there was something almost pitying in his eyes. "I'm not following you," he said. "I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "From them." A cold shiver ran down my spine. Before I could press for answers, he handed me a small, folded piece of paper. Then, without another word, he walked away. With shaky hands, I unfolded the paper. 3 words. "Do not sleep." That night, exhaustion pulled at my body, but fear kept me awake. I fought the urge to sleep, but eventually I lost. And I dreamed. This time, I wasn't alone on the bridge. The woman with silver eyes stood closer now, and beside her stood me. Not the real me, but a version of me, expressionless, empty-eyed, lifeless. "You have to wake up before it takes your place," she said. My reflection smiled. I screamed myself awake. Gasping, I sat up, and nearly jumped out of my skin. The stranger was sitting in the chair across from my bed. "Good," he said. "You woke up in time." My instincts screamed at me to run, but something in his expression stopped me. "You're in danger," he said. "Something is trying to replace you. Each time you dream, it gets stronger." I didn't want to believe him, but deep down, I knew he was right. The dreams weren't just dreams. They were warnings. "Who are you?" I whispered. He sighed. "Someone who made the mistake of sleeping too long." Chills ran through me. "What happens if I don't wake up?" I asked. "You'll disappear," he said. "And something else will wake up in your place." I didn't sleep for days. But exhaustion was catching up to me. My body ached, my mind fogged. Then one night I lost the fight. And I dreamed. This time the bridge was gone. I stood in a dark room, a mirror before me. In the reflection, my double smiled. "You're too late," it whispered. I felt myself being pulled, sinking into the reflection. My body turned heavy. I struggled, screamed. A sudden force yanked me backward. I gasped awake, feeling a tight grip on my arm. The stranger was shaking me, his eyes frantic. "You were slipping," he said. Tears streamed down my face. "How do I stop this?" He hesitated, then said, "You have to confront it." I didn't have a choice. That night I let myself sleep. I was back in the mirror room. The other me stood there, waiting. "You should have let go," it said. "You would have been free." I clenched my fist. "You're not me." It tilted its head. "Aren't I?" Then it lunged. I fought. Every fiber of my being resisted as it tried to pull me into the mirror. The room trembled and cracks spread across the glass. "You don't belong here," I shouted. The mirror shattered. Everything went black. When I woke up, the stranger was gone. No note, no message, just gone. And the dream stopped. But sometimes when I pass by a mirror, I pause, just to make sure my reflection is still mine.